Matt?
Thank you, Tammy. Can I just start with, since you opened with Venezuela, and this can be a very simple yes or no answer, did you get an answer to the question I asked on Monday about whether using the AEA for these deportations means that you recognize Maduro's government and that he is and him as the legitimate leader of Venezuela?
I do have an answer to that.
You do? Okay.
And the answer is no.
No, okay.
The answer is no. There is clearly, we've made it clear, and it's been obvious for quite some time, that Maduro is a dictator. It is a regime that we do not recognize. And we also understand, of course, that what we demand of him is something that has got to happen. I made that clear in my topper. The AEA proclamation is still valid, of course. That is currently being challenged in court, so I'm not going to comment on that litigation. But at the same time, it's not a regime we recognize. We don't recognize him as the president or a legitimate ruler at all.
Okay.
Right.
Secondly, then, and again, these are going to be extremely brief. On Friday, the Secretary signed, along with Pete Hegseth and the head of the National Defense University, this order removing the head of USIP.
That's the Institute for Peace.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. I'm curious to know when and where the Secretary signed this. Well,
it's been signed. And I don't have the details of exactly where he was. He was in many places in the 21st century.
We were with him. Both
yes, we weren't with him. We were on an airplane, and he was in the giant Secretary of State area that is away from us. He wasn't with you. He wasn't. Yeah, but there's plenty of ways in which something can be signed.
And can you assure us that it was his signature was not done by auto pen?
I've never known him to do that.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that it was signed.
Okay.
It was signed. Yes, sir. All right. This is like the Matt Lee show.
Well, no.
Yes,
it's
Daphne.
not trying to,
and Daphne, we can
yes
come.
or no question.
Are we staying in the same region?
Do you have anything? Can you tell us anything about Pete Morocco and his move from USAID?
Well, Pete Morocco is returning to the State Department full-time as the Director of Foreign Assistance. An indispensable role in aligning all U.S. government foreign assistance with the president's priorities. So he is returning to that job, and you will, I'm sure, no doubt, be hearing from him in a variety of different ways.
Okay.
All right, now Daphne and Matt, that's it. Daphne, let's go.
Tammy.
No, excuse me. Three questions.
Fine.
Daphne.
Thank you. So the White House has said that it has moved beyond the U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal. Has that already been agreed to and signed?
Well, what I know is, and you've noted their comment, is that at this point we're dealing with a whole host of things. That is not something that is being addressed at this moment, so I can't say what the disposition is, but I would just refer you to how they commented on it.
And could I just follow up on what you said about negotiations continuing in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Who will be representing the U.S. in these talks between the technical teams with Russia?
Well, it'll be senior staff. That's all I can tell you. So it will not be principals. It'll be senior staff addressing technical frameworks. And of course, the timing is important. It'll be in the coming days. So when they said it would be quickly, as President Trump requested, it's happening quickly. And we'll see some results of that, I think, very soon. Yes.
Just to follow up on that, Tammy, these technical talks, are they bilateral, trilateral? What is the format here? Are all of the parties going to be in one room?
I think that's probably still being discussed or arranged, and so I can't really speak about the nature of the specifics of the arrangement, but it's enough to be able to work on, technically draw up and deal with the nature of what was agreed upon in the call between the two presidents, and there'll be people there who will be able to do that.
And then on the issue of the abducted children,
Yes.
this was brought up in the Zelensky call, according to that statement, but the administration has cut off the funding for the research into the abduction of these children, some 30,000. And there's reports that the data collected on these children could have possibly been deleted. Do you have any comment on the decision to terminate the funding and the whereabouts of the data?
Well, the funding has been cut based on the assessments that we've been making regarding a whole host of funding, if it worked within our framework of what was in America's interest. What I can tell you, though, is also that the conspiracy theory or the fear or whatever it was about data being deleted is untrue. So that is false. The data exists. It was not in the State Department's control. It was the people running that framework, but we know who is running the data and the website, and we know fully that the data exists, and it's not been deleted and it's not missing. So that's the good news.
Why is it
Yes,
not in
Michael.
America's interest to track?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael.
Tammy, you referred early on in your opening about a ceasefire would apply to energy and infrastructure.
Yeah.
The statement says agrees on a partial ceasefire against energy. It doesn't say anything about other types of infrastructure. Can you explain what specifically the partial ceasefire covers? And when it says energy, what does that mean specifically? Does it mean the electrical grid? Does it mean power plants? What really is covered by this ceasefire?
I think when we have technical teams moving to an area within days to discuss the technical aspects, we'll get those answers. But one thing that is clear is that, as I've noted, we've never been closer to the full ceasefire. As Envoy Witkoff noted last night, that it is just a short way away to a complete ceasefire. That is clearly the goal. The goal has been a ceasefire within which we can begin negotiations for peace itself. That has not changed. So this is, of course, as we know, this is an agreement. This agreement reflects us being closer to an end to this, and is really the first agreement that it has created the potential of a de-escalation, which is what we want, and of course closer as a result to a full ceasefire so that this can end. The conversations between the parties involved, President Trump, the Secretary Rubio, Waltz, Witkoff, Kellogg, et cetera, multiple conversations to all the parties involved, and they've actually moved to the table in this regard through shuttle diplomacy, and so we've never been closer. So at this point, when it comes to the technical understanding, we'll learn that certainly in a few days, but this is the right trajectory brought to you by President Trump and his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. Do you believe that diplomacy is still the best option to deal with Iran? Considering some reports that maybe the president has given them 2 months only, other options are still on the table. And on Gaza, while Israel is going after Hamas, there is reported of 400 people being killed, the majority are civilians, including 185 children. What is the United States doing to tell Israel to spare the life of civilians, or to avoid them at least?
Well, first of all, on the question of Iran, it's been clear, Secretary Rubio has made it clear that, of course, as the world's top diplomat, that diplomacy matters. And we continue. Diplomacy includes, of course, there's a whole host of things in the toolbox for diplomacy, and the world understands this as well. So, of course, yes, diplomacy is the best way to handle this situation. And regarding, was it about
the
Gaza?
civilian casualties in Gaza, including 108 children, have been killed.
Yeah, it's horrible. This entire, it's the 21st century, and the savagery unleashed by terrorist groups, death squads of Iran, entities that have an investment in the suffering never ending, the use of people, the Gazans in particular, as cannon fodder for a dynamic that the world has decried for decades. And finally, we are here, and we've had enough of a conversation within the framework of this needing to end. And at the start, President Trump and Secretary Rubio demanded a new way of looking at how we end this framework of death and destruction, this cycle. And we are still in that process. And their demand that we can't continue on is made clear by the fact that Hamas had an offer, a bridge to continue on to the second phase, which they rejected. It was not a dynamic that was clearly going to end well in their rejecting it, but they did so anyway. And it's a horrible result of more decisions by Hamas that continue the suffering. But that has been the history. And so we not only decry the loss of life and the impact on children around the world, but enough to where President Trump has one term, and his focus has clearly been peace on this planet in every single fashion. And it will essentially be able to work because he's known to get results, he's known to be serious, and we're seeing it move forward. So it's a shame that Hamas has allowed this to occur, but look nowhere else other than the people who have facilitated this suffering from the beginning. The Trump administration, Secretary Rubio, the Department of State of this country are determined and are the ones working to make sure that this stops. And certainly the region understands that this is a real opportunity finally to change what's been happening in the world. Yes, sir.
Tammy, can I?
Yeah, staying in this region, please.
I was just wondering if Secretary Rubio had any conversations since the strikes with his Israeli counterparts. And, you know, are you trying to ensure that when Israel does these strikes using U.S. weapons that they're, you know, targeting, being as careful as possible in their targeting?
I can tell you that, of course, our teams, they're constantly in touch. There's been no phone call arranged yet, direct phone call between Secretary Rubio and Israeli counterparts or Israeli leadership. But of course, this is not a situation where if it's out of the news, the teams working to change the environment stop and leave an office or stop and just do something else. So this is a constant, as you might imagine, a constant effort on every element of foreign policy, certainly when it comes to war, ceasefires, ending conflict. So they're constantly working, and certainly we want peace. And we're working for this because we deplore the loss of life, as do the Israelis. These are things that are happening that none of us want to continue, and so it's difficult. But those conversations are ongoing, and of course we stand with Israel in every circumstance. They are our ally, and we continue to work to make sure that this conflict that we're able to stop it. Yes, Saeed, please.
Thank you, Tammy. I mean, just to follow up on Nadia's question, there were 180 Palestinian children that were killed and so on. And my question to you that, Israel has used like 100 fighter jets supplied by the United States of America. There's absolutely no ground-to-air defenses in Gaza, so there was no response whatsoever. And that, hence the cause for restraint and so on, that the U.S. probably should ask Israel. On the issue, the humanitarian issue, it's not only the bombing. I mean, there was a humanitarian catastrophe to begin with the holding of the aid and so on, and now we have this situation. Is the United States concerned that there is a looming catastrophe, probably of apocalyptic, nature coming through?
The actions of the world against what's happening make it clear that we are going to get this to be stopped. What I can tell you is it is a catastrophe, and there was a ceasefire on October 7th, I should say. There was a ceasefire, and it was broken by, apocalyptic, by the massacre of 1,200 people, the taking of over 250 hostages, remaining hostages that still are in unknown conditions. Certainly, Idan Alexander deserves to be free, and he still is not. So when we think about why we're in this situation, let us not forget. We talk about never forgetting certain things that happen, and it's important to keep reminding people of the things what sparked this, the obscenity of October 7th, the obscenity of this wholesale massacre that was videotaped, involving the slaughter of children, of babies, of women being raped as then they're murdered while they're being raped in front of some things are so difficult, we choose to not think about them or hold them in our consciousness because we can't. But in this situation, it is a mistake to look at dynamics within a section of what has occurred and remember the history of what has led us here and the extraordinary surprise at the American approach, the Trump approach, to try something new because this can't continue as a civilized world. It can't continue. So yes, we decry everything that is going on, which is why we're doing what we're doing now.
A quick
All right.
follow-up
Yeah.
on
Yes.
the
Yes, sir.
solution.
just want to follow up there on the material point about, the State Department is bound by the Leahy laws and other laws of the United States when it supplies weapons to its ally Israel. The point has been made that over half of these casualties, or those killed, were women and children. So is there a process underway in this building to assess if those actions using American weapons were compliant with international law?
Well, what we do, we work and apply international law. We apply certainly our applicable U.S. laws, I should say. And that is something, of course, that we are committed to. That's what we ask of others to do, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay if I shift regions?
I'm sorry?
Can I shift away?
I guess, are we going to shift region? You have a few more questions here. I will come right back to you. There. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Danny. A couple questions. Number one, on the Israel-Hamas unraveling of the ceasefire. I understand the U.S.'s position. What about the actual plan? The first time around, there was an immense political investment made in garnering a ceasefire. Is the U.S. planning through the State Department again to invest that much political capital in getting a ceasefire back in place? And if so, is the route the first time to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu? Is it now to pressure Qatar to lean on Hamas? What is the plan of action here?
Well, first, I'm not going to discuss negotiations or diplomatic conversations or plans that might be emerging or not. What we do know, and I think has been very public, is the fact that President Trump is not just wanting a peaceful day or a peaceful week. Secretary Rubio is not flying around to speak with his counterparts, to handle summits and speaking with the parties involved so that we can have a peaceful fortnight. This is over. It is over. The people, all of us are subjected, certainly not as much as the people on the ground in the Middle East, but the world has to be done with this situation. So the commitment, we would, with the nature of what the President Trump has already been able to create in his first term, in his personal life, the nature of the commitment of Secretary Rubio, that we have got an understanding of what, enough of a history of knowing what has happened, that we know it has to be handled differently. The region understands this, and the Trump administration we have this window of this administration to change the trajectory of what has been decades and decades, coming up on 100 years of carnage that is now unacceptable. So if it's going to be done, everything that is necessary to get it done will be delivered by President Trump.
One other question for
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Tammy. I have two
questions, and Russia, North Korea, and South Korea. First question, South Korea. It was revealed that the former Biden administration classified South Korea as a sensitive country in the Department of Energy in January 2025. What is the specific reason for classifying South Korea as a sensitive country, and what is the Trump administration's stance on allies? And
all right, so let me answer that. Is that, in fact, I have to refer you to the Department of Energy, all right? So that's the Department of Energy designation.
Okay.
And also, obviously, I'll reiterate, is that the United States greatly values the close relationship we have with the Republic of Korea on scientific research collaboration, and we look forward to continued robust cooperation. So that's my answer there, and I promised you I would come to you.
Can I have one more? Russian deputy.
Do you want to cede?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe I ask and then you go back.
All right, let's do that. All right, go ahead. I'll be back with you. Sure.
Because we're off the region anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to ask about the case of this missing spring breaker in the Dominican Republic who's feared to have drowned. Authorities in the country have effectively detained an American college student who's a witness in the case by withholding his passport. Is the State Department working to bring him home?
Well, you're talking about Joshua Ribe, if I'm saying his last name right, yes. So we, and I say this often, and we'll probably be saying it a lot more, is that there is no higher priority than the safety and security of U.S. citizens who are overseas. That matters to us. We're aware of this situation, certainly, and we take seriously our commitment to assist U.S. citizens abroad. It is a situation where I can't discuss certainly specifics, but we know that the U.S. Embassy is in communication with him. and his family and his lawyer, and we are providing consular assistance as well. So that's where I have to set it. And I hope that answers the question. Is that right? All right, we'll go back here.
Thank you again.
So about Russia, yes?
Yes, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Rudenko visited North Korea last weekend and discussed the war in Ukraine with North Korean Kim Jong-un. How does the Trump administration concerns about the military cooperation between Russia and North Korea, but the Russians, they still want to remain the North Korean troops in Russia, Moscow? Thank you.
Right, so asking about the nature of our reaction to Russia and North Korea and their alliance, essentially. So we know, of course, that's a perfect example of how third countries, like the DPRK, have perpetuated this war. So this is a dynamic that other countries are involved in, and certainly very specifically the DPRK. And they bear responsibility for the nature of what's going on. We continue to be concerned about their direct involvement in the war, their military deployment to Russia, and any support provided by the Russian Federation to North Korea in return also must end. So they're realizing the situation is changing, and that's good news. But we certainly, I think it's been made very clear the difference.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Following up on the Ukrainian children.